Welcome back, everybody. I know it's been a while since I made a video. Today I'm going to make a video on something I really love, and that's cast iron cookware. So most of these belong to my grandmother, very old. Some of these are older than others, obviously. They're all different brands. Some are Lodge, some I don't even know, like the names even wore off of them. But I'm going to go over a little bit about what makes cast irons so special. So some of the pros, and even some cons. I think the pros outweigh the cons by quite a bit. But the pros, so the pros to a cast iron pots or pans or skillets is that their coating, when you season them properly, is essentially non-stick. What happens is a very thin, hard layer of petrified oil gets formed on and covers the pores of the steel, of the iron, and does two things. It allows your cooktop to be non-stick, but what it also does is it protects the iron. What happens if water gets to iron? Oxidation. It rusts. This protective coating prevents the water from getting to the actual iron, hence protecting it. And I'm going to go over some of the steps to do that here soon. Pros, number one, non-stick. I just touched on that, but non-stick is really important. Remember, these pans can do it all. Because you don't have to put as much oil on the pan, you're also cooking healthier. And you can do that because even though it's iron, it is essentially non-stick. Anything you cook in a cast iron skillet will stay hotter longer. The reason being is because, I don't know if you can see this, and I'll show you a close-up shot here. The walls of these pots are 1/4 of an inch of solid iron. So when they get hot, heat transfers through this entire vessel, and it takes a while for that heat to dissipate. So the food you cook in it, if you cook it and take it off of the stove and maybe bring it to the serving table, you could probably eat your entire meal and it'll stay hot. Studies have shown that when you cook in cast iron, the food you cook, depending on the food you cook, acidic foods will do this more, but they absorb iron. They actually absorb iron from the pan. Women are usually more iron deficient than men, and this can actually aid your absorption of iron. You can have a higher iron intake just by using cast iron cookware. Pro number 4 is that they're long lasting. They're iron. So as long as you take care of them and don't do crazy things like getting them rocket hot and then putting cold water on them, because they do not handle shock from temperature very well. So while they are iron, I mean, they'll last generations and generations. Some of these pans are over 60 years old. And my grandma, I mean, this one looks like it was made in the backyard somewhere. But they're solid, they work perfectly. As long as you keep them seasoned, you won't have any issues with them. Pro number 5 is that they're inexpensive. So you can get a pan like this or a pot like this for anywhere between $15 to $19. Some of these are now, they used to be a lot less expensive. Now they're kind of coming up in price a little bit. These are like Dutch ovens, and I'll explain these later. I'm going to post a link to the video on the Lodge website on how they make these. It's quite impressive. So they take iron and steel and they melt it down, take the impurities out, and I'll explain all this more in a little bit. Then they use molds. They use sand molds and casts to create these. So once they have all the metal, they literally just pour it into these molds and let it cool. And then they do a few more steps, and then they're ready to go. So they can mass produce these, which is why they're so cheap. Alright, now we're going to move on to the cons. Just keep in mind that the cons can be easily overcome if you just pay attention and stay focused on what you're doing and take care of these pots. So con number 1, easy to burn yourself with. If you look at every one of these, every part of this skillet is one piece of metal. The handle, everything is part of the same type of metal. It was poured into a cast, dried, cooled, sanded, grinded, cleaned, done. But because of that, when you heat the bottom, heat transfers all the way around up to the top, and essentially, I mean, if you cook something long enough, the heat will spread through the entire iron surface, which includes the handle. So always, always, always use oven mitts, towels, something. Don't just grab it. I've done that way too many times, and you don't do it for very long. It's very hot. The next con is that they're heavy. Because they're roughly 1/4 of an inch thick, they can weigh, the larger the pot, obviously the more it's going to weigh. And the reason why this is a con is that something like this, this is solid. It is heavy. I don't know if you can see that. I'll show you more zoomed in pictures of these. But if you have this thing loaded down with a brisket or some jambalaya, and you're going to serve it, it will be heavy. So just keep in mind that it's heavy and it's hot. Con number 3 is that they are susceptible to rust. Again, this goes back to the caring of the cast iron skillet. If you care for your cast iron cookware, I'm sorry, I said skillet, but any cast iron is susceptible to rust. Matter of fact, this one I haven't done in a while. I haven't used it in a while, and you can tell it's starting to get a little bit of oxidation here at the bottom. And I'm going to go over ways to care for your cast iron cookware here coming up pretty soon. If you take care of your pots and pans, they won't rust, and you can reseason as many times or as often as you want. So now I'm going to go over a little bit about the differences in these pots and pans. Won't take very long. This is just my collection. I know some people that have 10 times more than I do. This is probably what I use the most. Well, this one and this one. This is what I make cornbreads in. I'll cook eggs, I'll cook sausage, I'll cook pretty much anything that I don't need to make a lot of in here. This is probably one of my favorites. I'll start roux in here just because the sides are low, the relatively shallow sides, and because of that, I don't have to reach really high in to stir. So I can kind of get around and get to the sides pretty easy in something low like this. Once I make my roux, I'll transfer it to something else. But this is probably my favorite. This is a 3-quart saucepan. I don't use this one a whole lot. However, I do make smothered potatoes in here. It's a nice small surface that I can use kind of for a side dish. These two are virtually the same, just different sizes. If I'm cooking something smaller, I'll go with this one because it's lighter. But this one, because I have a larger family, is the one I tend to cook with. And this one's solid. I don't know where this one came from. The bottom is completely wore off, so I can't even tell. But if you look at the side walls, they're even thicker than most of the other ones I have. They're very thick. But this makes a fantastic jambalaya. You see the ridge around here? This is actually so you can put charcoal. So you can bake in here like at a campfire. If you have all your stuff that you're going to use to bake inside, if you cover this and put hot coals on top, this is going to stop the coals from falling off. So that's what this is used for. And it will actually transfer the heat down into the pan or into the pot. And you can cook, bake this way. Some of them have legs that you can actually sit on a coal bed. I don't have any that do that. That's one of the ones that I want really bad. But this one, these two allow the coals to stay on top and to cook down. Or you can set it on top of a cook fire or hang it from a limb over a cook fire. It better be a strong limb because this pot's heavy. So now that we've talked about cast iron, the pros, the cons, I've showed you and talked a little bit about my collection. Now we're going to go inside. I'm going to show you how to care and clean these cast iron pots, or brand new cast iron pots, and also how to season them. I hope you guys are enjoying this video. Stay tuned. What I plan on doing is, this is the first episode on cast iron. So this is going to talk a little bit about everything that I've already talked about, plus a little bit more coming up. But every week I'm going to try my best to post another video for a recipe that I made in cast iron cookware. Whether it's a skillet, whether it's any one of these, I'm going to post recipes on cooking in a cast iron skillet. Alright, let's go inside and I'm going to show you how to take care of your pans. Alright guys, now that we're in, we're going to take this cast iron skillet. We're going to feel for any rough spots that need to be scrubbed. I use my favorite Lodge scraper, I'm sorry. And we're going to scrape until we don't feel any more things like food or something on the pot. Alright, now we're going to use mild detergent, nothing with lye, which is a much more harsh detergent. Let's pour some Dawn, scrub it around. I like to do a pretty thorough scrubbing, so I fast forwarded here. But you want to do pretty much the entire surface, so the inside, the back, around the edges, the handle, everything that you're going to re-season, which is the whole thing. Go ahead and get it rinsed off, like so. Then what I do is I turn the stove on to about medium high, and I let it dry. What that's going to do is that's going to ensure that all the moisture is gone. Okay, once that happens, I put a little bit of oil on the inside. I use a napkin to stir. What you want is a really thin layer on the entire deal. So go ahead and rub that around and flip it over. Or get the sides first, then flip it over. Then we're going to add a little bit more. And go ahead and get your oven preheated to about 400 or 450. Alright, now it's ready to go. We're going to put it in there for 45 minutes. And this is what it looks like. So it has a new, fresh, baked on coating. Now you're ready to cook on it. So guys, get this. I plan on having a new video once a week on different cast iron recipes. So excited that you guys like these videos. And I hope you continue to watch and subscribe. Thanks and have a great day.